Well, welcome to a series of lectures, monthly lectures of the Gnostic Society on the subject of Mani and his meaning to our lives. And this evening I'd like to talk primarily about the importance of Mani's life and mission and how that relates to us. And so the title of this lecture is Prophets and Angels, How Mani's Inspired Life Can Be Our Guide. And then the question I first had about this was, why Mani? Well, Mani laid out a complete mythos of transformation for both personal and cosmic, from the timeless beginning to the timeless end. And so a very complete picture of the path of Gnosis, and it was universal in scope, including Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, Gnostic Christianity, esoteric Judaism, not a constructed syncretism, but drawn together from his revelatory experience. So I think this is a critical piece to remember in a lot of what we call revealed literature and such, is that what often they're sort of thinking like, they're artificially constructed, and, take something from here, take something from there. But no, this was something that was revealed to Mani, and then he picked the parts of the culture that would illustrate it to people. In order to communicate these things, you have to have some kind of mythic understanding and something to convey these very high and inspired ideas. And who was Mani? Well, he lived during the 3rd century. He was born in 216 of the current era, and he died around 59 years old. And his parents were of royal blood. Miriam, his mother, was of the Parthian royal family. And his mother actually had many visions while she was pregnant with Mani. She would see his soul being taken up into the heights and then brought back in the morning when she slept. And his father joined a Proto-Mandean sect, who was one of the Mandeans, or one of the last surviving conveyors of the Gnosis, and that's really important. And the group that he joined were called Elkasites, and they were a baptismal sect, very ascetic, and this is the milieu in which Mani was born. Mani was both a renowned painter and an inspired poet. And in fact, the name for a good painter in Persia for many years was, he's a Mani, if he was a very good painter. And so that was, and so how was his life inspired? His chief inspiration was in the messages received through his twin angel. He called his twin angel, and one of the names for this was Al-Ta'um, which is a Nabatean word meaning companion. So in a lot of the Manichaean literature, you'll see him refer to this light twin as his companion. Also, the spirit of Jesus was referred to as a companion. As far as recorded, he received his first instruction at the age of 12 from the angel, and guiding him in preparation for his later ministry. And he was instructed to how to live, but it wasn't quite ready. He was too young yet to go out into the world and deliver his message. He had to wait until he was 24. And then the angel came to him again and kind of laid out the whole plan for him and the mission of his life, and told him to go forth and begin teaching. So the angel bid him to give up his outer life and begin preaching the mysteries that the angel revealed to him. He was a prophet and an apostle of Christ. Many times in the literature, he calls himself an apostle of Christ. And in many ways, in the sense that that St. Paul was an apostle, because his connection with the Savior was a spiritual one. He didn't know Jesus in the flesh, but he felt that he had that Spirit was his companion. He called himself the Paraclete at times, and it was the Paraclete who was sent, the Comforter who was promised by Jesus in the Gospel, and so he was. But beyond that, he was connected to a long stream of Gnostic teachers. This time that the angel came to him when he was 24 occurred about 100 years after Marcion had begun to preach, and 30 years after Bardesson, or also called Bardesanes, which you'll hear, both of those names you'll hear in our Gnostic saints. And particularly Bardesanes is the hymn of the pearl from the Acts of Thomas is attributed to Bardesanes. And Bardesanes was also Persian, so there's a really deep connection between the hymn of the pearl and the writings of Mani. He was a prophet because of his the divine message that he was given, and also his mission in the world. In his case, perhaps, and perhaps really in each one of us, his message was the mission, but they were so closely entwined that, in a sense, his mission was the message, and the message was his mission. And so one of the most cogently composed mission statements that I have read is that I've ever read is that of our late and dear friend and brother Bishop Stefan Heller, in the opening paragraph of A Gnostic View of the Future from the book Voices on the Threshold. These are his words. I am a Gnostic. It was in my childhood, when the comforting orthodoxies of tradition seemed to fail a world suffering from the Second World War's shattering blows, that the first glimpse of Gnosticism came to me, with its disclosure of long-forgotten truths. So overwhelmingly deep was its ancient hold upon my mind that I became a relentless gatherer of information about every aspect of this ancient tradition, and eventually resolved to dedicate my life to its revival and dissemination. So this also, I think, is what we are called to do, is to find our mission in life. Now, it may not, and probably, hopefully won't be, to start a church, start a religion, but there's a lot of other ways that we can discover our mission in this world. And it's something that needs to come from within. And that, I think, Mani is a model for us to teach us how that is done. In a very real way, his connection with that twin angel, that light twin, was the key to his mission in this world. And so in that case, I think it's also important that we sort of discover how that communication takes place in our lives. And this is perhaps what I'm going to most focus on tonight. Although it is not recorded of Mani, often a prophet receives some powerful mystical experience around the age of 4 or 5. In the case of our late bishop, he tells of a numinous dream which he had when he was about 5 years old. And I'm not going to spoil the documentary that's going to be coming out by giving you the content of that dream. But you'll find it there. But in this prophetic fashion, this dream not only shaped his entire life mission and spiritual quest in this world and his mission to deliver that liberating message of Gnosis, but it's also foretold the bloody coming of the Second World War and its aftermath. C.G. Jung also recalls a numinous dream early in childhood, and again I'll refer you to Memories, Dreams, and Reflections, or the newer book now on this. That would be that's very good. But then later in the Red Book we find out that all these revelations came to him through Philemon, his angelic, mystical emissary of the self with a capital S. Some of the imagery in the Red Book also prophesied the onslaught of World War II. So we can see that there's a connection here between the prophet and the angel, is the point I'm trying to make here. And what does Mani's inspired life mean to us as Gnostics? As I said before, one of the most enduring and indelible patterns of his life story is his interaction with his twin angel, his light twin. So who is the light twin? Again, this is difficult to there's always kind of an ambiguity in the Gnosis. And so any kind of figure from different symbol systems, you can't just put equal signs between them and say, and in this case, what we're talking about is like there's a connection with the holy guardian angel, this light twin. Higher and divine genius is another name for this. And the Christ within, the hope of glory, is another. So these are all kind of archetypal, powerful symbols. And they all have a connection with this relationship with that light twin. But they're not exactly the same. So you can't just put equal signs between them. It's almost as if, it's an analogy, but it may not be a good one, but it's one that's coming to me now. It's like when sometimes the lamas can be, when people look at them when they're in an altered state of consciousness, they'll begin to see many faces going back. And in some ways, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like these these figures kind of move in and out in different ways in our lives. And so this is some. So we can't say that the Christ is the same as the light twin. We can't, but there is a connection. The light twin may, in some ways, appear to you as the Christ within. It's just you just have to. What you have to do is just go with it. Go with the process. That's one of the things that I've heard many times is trust the process, and this is one of those things. So I guess what I'm saying is don't get hung up on the labels. Just and I'll be going into the issue of trust, because this is a common question and actually a real important one, is how can you trust the communication that you're getting, and so we'll deal with that later this evening. So what we might do is in mathematics there's kind of a wavy symbol that means approximately equal to, and maybe we can use that. So, and also we can't really get limited by our gender expectations on these either. I mean, sometimes the light twin is a contrasexual image. Sometimes it's the same. Sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's neither. So you have to just, however it appears to you, is how you have to recognize it, and that's often how it works. How then do we become open to the individual private messages of the divine through our own twin angel? So these images, these messages can come in many forms. The key is to recognize them and honor them, their importance as communications of the divine to us. Do not try to explain them away, disregard them, or get stuck in preconceived notions. So that's, again, you just have to kind of accept them. And do not dissuade yourself with self-doubts. And most importantly, do not fall prey to the blandishments and delusions of the personal little ego that kind of wants to take this for its own. Those of you who have studied the Gnostic perspective of the demiurge know how this works. And now, with the advent of artificial intelligence, do not rely on chatbots receiving divine messages or unveiling their meaning. So one of the things I think we can do is, I talked about some periods in life. So one of the things is we can look at our earliest dreams and mystical experiences, or even what I call spiritual inclinations. Those in early childhood, between the ages of 4 and 6, seems to be a particularly powerful period for many people. Those on the threshold of puberty, some around the ages of 12 to 14 or so. I mean, it can be more or less than that, but it's the threshold of puberty, basically. And of course, the angel supposedly, as far as recorded, appeared to Mani when he was 12. So those on the threshold of adulthood, between the ages of 18 and 25, that period is often pivotal in a person's life. Another period of note is after age 40. and that's the among the Kabbalistic teachers, that was one of the requirements, is that one be over 40 before studying Kabbalah. So there's a point to that too, as well. So examples of this in early childhood. Again, we don't have any record of Mani's early childhood in this regard, but I think we could probably guess that he probably had some mystical experiences. Certainly, his mother did while she was pregnant with him. And so one of these was, again, I talked about Jung's dream and Stefan's dream at that time. Blavatsky, because I want to draw in the Theosophical Society with this as well, was also sickly in her childhood and very apt to have had some mystical experiences. And then the threshold of puberty, again, I already mentioned Mani was 12 years old. Blavatsky was 12 years old when she first became interested in occultism. And this is the period in which, when asked what he wanted to be, Stefan answered, a priest. So this is, again, one of those seminal periods in the life of one that is in contact with that light twin. And then the threshold of adulthood. Mani was 24 years old when the twin angel revealed his life mission and gave him the mysteries that he was to transmit. Stefan began his preparation for entering the priesthood during this period in life and was ordained at 26 years of age. So that's very much in that time frame. It was also during this time that he first copied Jung's 7 Sermons to the Dead. And Blavatsky was 20 years old when she first met her master, one of her masters, in person. So after age 40, we have a number of examples of that as well. At age 41, in 1972, Stefan began to bring the sacramental rites and services of the Gnostic Church into a cohesive whole. His teaching and lectures for Philosophical Research Society, the Gnostic Society, and the Theosophical Society began around this time, and he took off and was an international speaker for many years. Jung in ages 38 to 42, and this is after age 40, had his confrontation with the unconscious, which is recorded in the Red Book and Black Books, the Black Books and the Red Book, which he published. And there are, Stefan has, I think, 13 lecture series on the Red Book. It's very good. You get it, BC Recordings. And also Reverend Lance Owens has three lectures on the Red Book that are very insightful and very good as well. So if you want to delve more into that, those are some really good resources. So how can we then have some of these experiences? And I think in some ways it's important to kind of dial down our expectations of how these come to us. I mean, they're not always going to be as dramatic as an angel appearing to us and revealing the mysteries to us. So some of the ways are what I call sort of spontaneous kind of experiences, not that just happen. We don't really produce them or control them. And so one of those is dreams. We don't have a lot of control over what we dream. We can we can maybe set ourselves up to suggest that we'll remember them and pay attention to them. But perhaps what's most important is to look at the dreams that we've had that were given to us with such power and numinosity that we never forgot them. So I think if we can look, any one of us can look in life and say, oh yeah, that was a dream that I'll never forget. And often they come with a voice that seems to come out of the ether. It's kind of like the voice of heaven, but like I call it the voice of prophecy. It just has this just a short, pithy pronouncement that just comes into you, and you just remember it. And it just your whole life comes out of that mystery that you have experienced. Another is spontaneous visions can happen. Occasionally a person can fall into an altered state of consciousness and receive a vision, have a visionary experience. Emanuel Swedenborg was one of those, William Blake, Jakob Böhme, and many of the Christian mystics, both Catholic and Orthodox, have reported such experiences. Often one is overcome by the need to lie down. So it's like, I got to lie down, and then boom, the vision just comes right in front of you. And then there's also synchronicities. So we can't really plan the little things that come up, but synchronicities are pretty interesting. They're not always as dramatic as say, a scarab flying into a window or something like that. But it can be like that. I think some of the ones that I recall is where like a hawk or some other wild animal comes unusually close to you. And seems to be has a deep meaning. So that's one of the requirements for a synchronicity, is that it's a symbol that has an interior impact in some way. So it mirrors an interior state in some way, and it's in a sense almost a message from the unconscious brought to you. And so that's another one. And then another more subtle one that is probably more common is what might be called an impress. You just get kind of, I call them spiritual nudges. It's sort of like you maybe read something about a group or a person, and you find out, oh, well, they're going to be speaking here, and so you just get a little, well, maybe I should check this out. And sometimes you'll meet somebody, and the nudge will be, no, stay away from this person. But anyway, that's also, I think, a communication from our higher self when that happens. And then there's modes of inducing such experiences, and that's also important. So there's, let's see. Well, first is active imagination. Now that was the technique that Jung used to get all of his black books and red book material, pretty much. And that involved kind of sort of like a self-induced dream, in a sense. Jung's example is he just imagined digging a hole down, and then he just fell down into the underworld and had all these visionary experiences. And then you find by the end of the Red Book, well, these were all Philemon, communicating with him and leading him through all of this. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about with active imagination. There's a lot of it in the various Jungian practitioners will use that with their clients, and it's pretty useful. And it's spun out in a lot of different ways as well. So that's one method. And again, I think most all of the kind of guided meditations that are available are of this kind of mode of inducing those kinds of phenomena. Another is like spirit journeys and vision quests and drumming into the underworld or upper worlds and that kind of thing. Anything that's kind of brings you into what I call a hypnagogic state of consciousness, which is where your ego is kind of bypassed a little bit, not in control, and things just kind of come up. So what's important for this, and then also entheogens, is another mode of inducing these experiences. But it's really important with all of these that a person have the set and setting that will protect them. Because these are dangerous things to do sometimes. I mean, you can really get into some troublesome waters with some of these. Not all the time, but it can happen. So, and I think there's a lot of criteria for the guide that you have with these things needs to be pretty connected in order for you to be safe in this regard. And so it's just something you have to keep in mind, is that you don't want to just go off and do these things without proper preparation and a responsible person guiding the process. And then one of them that works is what I call a prayerful seeking for gnosis. I also call it the agonizing inner soul searching for answers of religion and the spirit. So that's another modality that, but it's not easy. It's not an easy one, but it's one that's pretty readily available. Again, it's I think the important point about any of these is that it has to come from within you. So I think you need to have some connection, something within you connects to these higher realms already. And then when the inducement comes, then you just go there, and you're prepared to work with it. But if you don't have that sort of lift-off place within yourself and connection with the higher, it can be pretty dicey. It can be pretty dicey. And then also there's meditation practices that can bring you messages from your twin angel, your light twin, and then there's Gnostic communion through sacramental rituals and mysteries. That's another way of accomplishing this. And particularly for myself, the Gnostic sacraments of redemption and the bridal chamber. And those two are probably most closely linked to the twin angel, and Sophia. Those are very important sacraments. So with all of these modalities, if we are to come to our own relationship with our own light twin, our twin angel, we must have what I call a selfless intent. Kind of have to let go of this ego grasping, and much of that is accomplished by simply knowing who you are. Know thyself is perhaps the biggest message that all of this points to. If you know yourself, in fact, in the Gospel of Thomas, if you know yourself, then you know that you are the sons and daughters of the Father. This is, I think, what's really important. And you know, I'm talking about the Gospel of Thomas and the Acts of Thomas here. In the Gospel of Thomas, his full name is Judas Didymus Thomas. Didymus means twin. And so we have, again, the twin symbol in there. And the other thing is a devotion to something greater than one's little ego self. So one has to develop something. In 12-step, it's the higher power. And it doesn't matter what you call it, but something greater than one's little self. And that it is really your immortal selfhood in that regard. And again, you must have something within yourself that is awakened and nourished by these experiences. In the Gospel of Thomas, it says, if you bring out that which is within yourself, it will save you. And this is an essential message of the Gnosis. It's also the intent behind the late Bishop Heller's life, and intent of Mani's life, and the intent of Blavatsky in founding the Theosophical Society, which the hallmarks were universal brotherhood, service to humanity, and search out the esoteric mysteries of the universe, and know thyself. And I remember one of the lines that most struck me at the end of the Red Book is, after all these experiences, he asked Philemon, what am I supposed to do with all this? And the answer was just very simple. It was just tend your own garden. And I think that is what we can do too. Is we can begin to tend our own garden. And that is our mission in life. That's what we're here to do. And it may be in support of somebody else. It may be teaching a class. It might be, there's so many ways that it can manifest. But it's about listening. Listening for that message from your twin angel. However you may want to label that. That is basically the pattern of Mani's life that we can use in our own life. There's a way that certain dispensations come down into this world, And Mani was one of those dispensers of the gnosis. And the stream of gnosis continues through those individuals that have basically tapped into that source and have come here to do their mission in this world. And so may that twin light come into the lives of you, and I hope that what I have shared with you this evening will be a help towards that endeavor. Thank you very much. As I said, he was one of the dispensers of the gnosis, and some of his success was actually in his ability to actually show people the heavenly realm. I mean, this is with the first Shapur the First. He basically, through his touch, could take him to heaven and hell and everything in between, and then Shapur was devoted to him ever after. It didn't last after several other rulers of Persia came in, but that was his effect on people. He was able to actually induce visionary experiences in people in that fashion. And so he was really a remarkable person in our Gnostic history, was Mani. He just had that ability, and also he's one of the only founders of a religion, and he writes about this. He wasn't all that humble in that regard, but he writes that the Buddha, Jesus, all these people had their disciples write what they said after. But Mani wrote it himself. He was, like I said, a renowned poet. So you'll find in Duncan Greenlee's the Gospel of Mani, tremendous, beautiful poetry of Mani's that just describes these incredibly high spiritual ideas and images with such heartfelt poetry that it almost invokes the state within yourself. It's really, really powerful. So, in that sense, as I said, his message was that it conveyed, this poetry conveyed the experiences that he himself had received.